I'm the last one, and I'll probably try to finish it quickly because I can see the time. Uh, from my introduction perspective, I belong to a technical background, so I have been a part of the technical team doing the implementation for almost 8 years. After that, I got the opportunity to move into the Scrum Master role. So I'm a certified Scrum Master as well. I went to do the Scrum Master role, and probably have done good enough in with Kronos, I suppose so. And just after approximately more than 1 year in the Scrum Master role, I got the opportunity to get into the product manager role as well. So I'm quite new in terms of experience. So I've got around 8-9 months of experience of product management, and this presentation is from a point of view of an individual who has actually done all the 3 roles or has been part of all the 3 roles in a Scrum as such. So just a collection of my views and points. So that's the agenda for us. The role of a product owner, I think everybody understands it, what the role of a product owner is, so I probably won't spend much of a time on it. Different point of views from the development team's perspective, from a Scrum Master perspective, and from a product owner's perspective, what actually this role is and what everybody expects from a product owner. So that's one. So certain gaps and questions and issues that I have seen myself being in a developer role, being in a Scrum Master role, and being in a product owner role, and questions, of course. So starting with the role, I think everybody has briefed it quite well that he is the major stakeholder of a deliverable, or a shippable unit. So he actually owns what delivery is going to be coming out of the development cycle. He owns the requirement, and it is expected that he should be clear in defining the requirements and making it clear out to the development team. And the most important aspect is the business purpose. The team who is actually going to implement it, they should understand what business needs they are going to satisfy from an organizational perspective, from an organization's goals perspective. Until unless they align with the business needs, they won't. I can say it, that they won't give their 100% to achieve those business targets. Yes, the third point, the product owner should be considerate about the team's capacity and the technical capacities. So again, I am saying this because I'm coming from a technical background, but person coming from a business background might not agree with this. But then it is something which needs to be considered. Ultimately, it's the humans who are actually going to work on the development or on the project. So that is a very important aspect for a product owner to be considered with. Then again, the next point is again as important as the previous one, has to balance out the competing requirements of budget, time, and schedule. In any business, in any business organization, I mean, we are here in specifically in terms of IT as a service or as a product company, but for any business, time to market is the first and foremost thing for any organization to achieve success. Timing is everything in terms of delivery, in terms of your product, or in terms of whatever you want to bring out in the market. And yes, customer interaction, it is a must. I specifically stated this point here because we being in India, primarily the IT companies, they are catering to clients who are 90 to 95% either in Northern American continent or in the European continent. So we generally, as a product owner, as a product manager, we don't interact with the clients on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So we just interact them probably over conf call for 3 hours. That is not good enough for a product owner, for a product manager. So that's my take on the role of a product owner. Going ahead with the different views, so from a team standpoint, and when I say team, it's like on a Scrum, that's I have seen in past 4 years, the time that I have been practicing Scrum, that concept looks good, but it's really hard to follow. People say it's really easy to follow, but it's really very hard to follow Scrum. I mean, I can probably just giving you one example. The Scrum works on the basic principle of ownership. Everybody who's part of a team, of a Scrum team, has to own the collective responsibility of the deliverable. So that is something which is really hard to follow in the individuals right now. sense of ownership which lacks with the team. I just specified about it. On the product owner, so should understand that things take time and effort to work upon. So everybody is agreeing. I mean, probably I've seen from everybody that changing requirements, that's the truth. Everybody faces it. But then the team's point of view is product owner need to understand change cannot be done like this. It will take time. It will take time. Should have understanding of the business requirements. So that's something which is expected out of him. But probably as we have new product owners emerging in India, people getting into this role, so this is a challenge for each individual who is getting into this role. Should be part of the daily Scrum stand-ups. That's again a must from my side. I believe a Scrum stand-up is ideally of 15 to 30 minutes, and a product owner should be part of that stand-up. And yes, I mean, this is one thing on which team actually uses product owner. In case of complex items, he should be the one who take the decision and let the team know. So that team can say, he said it and we did it. Simple. That's the practical thing which I have seen. From the point of view of a Scrum Master, again, Scrum Master is kind of a balancing act between the team and the product owner and the management and the release delivery manager and everybody. So he actually needs to understand the concept of the Scrum as such. On the product owner, again, he should be able to understand the concerns related to the scope and the work that the team has to do, because probably managing the delivery, the sprint timings and the planning, that's where the Scrum Master role comes into the picture, and he needs the help of the product owner to get everything in line with the delivery. Yep, needs to be flexible enough to meet both the ends from the technical and the business aspects. I mean, I have previously covered as well, and should communicate properly with assumptions as well as requirements. So assumptions are a really very tricky thing in software industry. So there are many things which we assume, but then those assumptions generally are not communicated to everybody. That includes the development team or the management team. And at probably after 4 weeks, after 3-4 getting midway through your development cycle, when you see that those assumptions are not falling in place, everything goes bang bang. So that's something that is related to the communication. Assumption is something that we should not forget to communicate to everybody. From a product owner perspective, okay, the Scrum has its own advantage, which is why it is being followed. So that's the first thing. The Scrum puts in the collective responsibility on the whole team, with product owner as a major stakeholder for the deliverable, because the product owner is defining what is going to be coming out of your development as a deliverable. So from a concept standpoint, on the team, team does not understand the client perspective. That's the first thing which I've seen from product owners' point of view. So I believe I certainly I've said it before as well, that product owner should be considered as a part of a team. So since he's a part of the team, it is his responsibility to make everybody understand what is the requirements, what are the business factors which are driving these requirements, or why we are doing this. Because until unless you understand why we are doing this, I mean, you won't take your time and effort to get things done. For complex items, I mean, the team said that the product owner should own and define what is to be done. The product owner thinks, okay, we should come up with a solution rather than asking what should be done. PO is also part of the team, so there has to be discussions around it. And I would like to say something that we are trying to follow in Kronos for quite a lot of time. And we have got support from the product management whole team in terms of implementing this, that for certain items, for certain areas, or for certain time period, product owner doesn't get included in, is not able to get into the Scrum call, or is not available for 3-4 days. In that situation, the product owner, the product management has recommended this, that the team can take a decision on certain item on which they feel that they require input from a product manager. But if it's not available, then they can take the decision. And believe me, in 80 to 85% of the cases, the team, if they are involved with the product owner right from the beginning, the decisions that they take in terms of implementing the solution, those are correct. It's hardly the 15% or 20% of the time when a product owner comes and says, okay, you made a mistake, you should have done it this way. So that's a practical thing that we have seen ourselves doing and following it. And yeah, so the last point, team should have the authority on any item which they are developing, and in case of some hard technical decisions or some items to be decided upon, decision can be informed. I mean, so on certain items, the team, or probably I can say the senior members or the architects, they can step down on the product owner and say, technically this is not the ideal way to do it and we are not going to do it. But you should have a reason behind it. You should get him involved in your discussions and inform him why you are saying no. That's the best way to communicate no. Coming from the, okay, just 2 slides, nothing more. So the gaps which probably I've encountered myself during in all the 3 roles. The first complaint which every team reports is requirements are not defined properly. In the beginning it was something else, in the end it was something else, and it's the PO who is playing this ball maker. So from a product owner perspective, it's like the requirements are same. It's just that we are going into detailing out or fleshing out the business requirements in detail. So for a single page, first you said, okay, we should have a 5 text boxes and then 2 buttons. But then gradually, okay, we need 1 radio box as well, one drop down as well. So those kind of things do happen. And if the product owner is considered as part of a team, then I have seen the team can actually go probably beyond their normal limit to achieve the business objective. That's the goal, that the business objective, that what you are going to give to the organization as and which organization will then further forward it to the clients, which will generate revenue and at the ultimate end, which is the goal of every organization. So that's something which happens quite regularly. As I said, I mean, PO says requirements getting more elaborated and detailed as discussion goes on. And another thing which is related to the scope. So there are at times things which actually go out of the scope, but I've truly written it. I mean that practically I've never seen anything which has gone out of scope and the team not given time to execute it. So that should be the beauty of the Scrum, whoever organization is using it, that yes, there will be changes in the scope, but you need to give time to implement it. And the 3 parts which comprise a Scrum need to have a better communication and definitely have a certain amount of faith upon each other, that yes, we all 3 parts are together as a team to work towards our business goals, towards our organizational goals. Okay, yep. So from a product owner perspective, again, it's the prime responsibility of the product owner to understand, to make sure that the team understands the business objective, the theme or the story on which they are working, and the benefits from the overall organizational perspective. It could be it could be done in many ways, but the communication has to be there. The non-communication or the miscommunication is something which actually should not be there at all in the Scrum team as such. And ultimately, it's I believe the Scrum Master is the role which is the very crucial one in terms of balancing out everything together with the team, with the product owner, with the management, and everybody into the picture. So that's discussion. No questions. Discussion. Right on time?
We have time.
We have time. Okay.
Couple of questions we can take.
So how do you handle these gaps?
Pardon?
How do you handle these gaps?
Communication. So when I was the Scrum Master, I actually tried to have at least a weekly meeting one-to-one with the product owner, just to keep him in sync. I mean, product owner, I mean, we actually made sure that he gets into the Scrum call daily. I mean, Scrum, the product owner being in US, it was an odd time for him, but he actually, responded well to our concerns, and he was part of the daily Scrum calls. But then, certainly, there are certain items which team don't talk upon on a daily basis or during the retrospective as was being discussed. But then, that's the role of a Scrum Master, to make sure that team has a faith on the Scrum Master that yes, he's there to help them, And the product owner has a faith on the Scrum Master as well, that yes, he's the one who actually will take care of everything when he is not physically present with the team. So from the retrospective point, I mean, I didn't say it at that time, but I certainly feel that product owner should be part of the retrospective, because he gives the input which are very valuable for the team, and the team, if they can open up, and I expect any company who's following the Scrum, the team should be good enough to follow the Scrum, to be open enough to talk about all plus and minuses for a product owner as well. So that's my take.
Okay, communication, sorry.
Oh, please.
So communication can handle few things, right?
Yeah.
Clarity, building clarity in the stories or the requirements, clarity of certain aspects suddenly bubbled up because we started working on it. So I believe spiking is something which can address this gap rather than communication. What do you say?
I mean, there are different ways of doing it. Definitely, I mean, there cannot be a one thumb rule that okay, communication will resolve everything. So that depends on probably on the team, or probably for the Scrum Master to see how can we improve on it. I mean, whether we can, if the communication, or you can say if the enhanced communication doesn't work, then that thing can be taken up as well. Yep.
Rohit, you talked about the time to market as essence in the beginning.
Yep.
And then you also spoke about the scope, the kind of requirements, and the team needs to be given time.
Yep.
So how does this thing get balanced? Because I think in one perspective the pressure is on the team to finish on time. Another perspective, they believe that they need to give more time as requirements getting fleshed out.
Yep.
How does it actually play on the ground in reality?
So see, the Kronos is there are different scenarios for a services company and for a product company. So since I belong to a product company, we actually try to, once we have a certain thing which we see, okay, this is going out of scope. So even at an enhanced stage of development, the product owner can take a call, okay, this is certain features which we will not deliver in our first release, but in our first service release. So that trade-off needs to happen at the product owner, or probably at the product management level. Not a single product manager can decide on it, because there is a whole release planning team in place which actually decides how the release dates are planned and all. So that call has to be taken at that level. Okay, we will have to do a trade-off. So that those decisions actually are taken up.
And second question was, I answered the question. Second question was that you said the Scrum is hard to follow about ownership.
Yeah.
So what do you think your organization is doing to sort of bring that culture of the ownership, and how does it happen?
So
do you have your separate training sessions outside your project, or how does it happen on the ground?
So definitely training is one area by which you can actually get people to understand the philosophy of Scrum. So the other thing which I feel the people will start getting the sense of ownership is by appreciation. I mean, even if a person is doing a small work, which actually we Indians as is our nature, we actually really lack in appreciating anyone for good work. We actually appreciate for bad work. That's our beauty. But for good work, we rarely appreciate. So that's one way which I have seen that, I actually have a practical example with me. There was one team member who has got just 2 years of experience, and we were actually working on one product that's 2 years back. And we had to create a metadata, and the senior architect and myself and then the product owner, we were discussing, okay, we should do it in one manner. But then one day passed, we were not convinced that is the correct way of doing it. The team was involved in it, but since the senior architect, the product owner, they are discussing, chief architect is also involved, nobody was ready to speak a word. So then one day, he was a new guy, he came to me, he said, Rohit, I have a suggestion if I can make. I said, yes, tell me. He said, can't we do the solution of this metadata in this manner? He just wrote something on the paper and draw a diagram. And I was like, that's great. It didn't click anyone. So I said to him, okay, I'm getting the architect and the chief architect into a room right now. You get in there, do them the presentation, or just tell them on the board what you think of it. He said, no, I won't do it. I said, go, do it. He did it, and it was actually implemented. That was the solution which was implemented. And this kind of appreciation we lacked somewhere in our whole system as such. So these are the things, and now that person has actually grown, he has become a good team member, he's contributing technically as well, and in taking part in discussions and everything. So that's one way of doing it. Training is definitely the other part. But training cannot ensure you that everybody gets up to that level. So, that's true.